take a look at how to write a linear function or a linear model when we are given a word problem. So we're told that the monthly charge for a waste collection service is $1,225 for 100 kilograms of waste and $1,525 for 125 kilograms of waste. Let's find a linear model for the cost, which we're calling C, as a function of the number of kilograms. So I typically tell my students that anytime you know that you have data that's linear, or if you're being asked to create a linear model, then right away write down the general equation that you're going to need to write that formula or that model. So here, linear means I'm looking for some y equals mx plus b. Then the next thing that you should do is identify your two variables. So your input variable. What is the input variable in the context of the word problem? And then what is the output variable? Because we typically write our points in the order of x comma y. So you want to make sure you know which variable is going to be quote unquote x and which one's going to be quote unquote y. So for this particular problem, your input variable is going to be the number of kilograms of waste, right? Which in this particular problem, we're told instead of using x, we're going to use w, okay? And the output variable in this particular problem is the cost measured in dollars. And so instead of using y, we're going to call y C. Okay, so that means that when I write my ordered pair, x is going to correspond with w and y is going to correspond with c. So once you have it very clear what your two variables are, then before you even write the equation, the next thing that you should do is write out your 2 points. So we need 2 points so that we can calculate the slope and then write the equation. So our 2 points here are going to be for every 100 kilograms of waste, the cost is $1,225. So that's, you can call that W1 and C1. And my other point is for 125 kilograms of waste, the cost is $1,525. So you can think of that as W sub 2 and C sub 2. So then the next thing that we're going to do after we write out our 2 points is we're going to calculate the slope. So the slope of the linear function, which we are going to call m, is the change in cost over the change in kilograms. So here that would be 1525 minus 1225. Divide that by 125 minus 100. So that gives me a slope of $12 per kilogram. So in the next question, when you're asked to interpret the slope tells us that the cost of waste collection is going to increase by $12 per kilogram. And then once you have the slope, then you're going to need to find the y-intercept. So again, we need to find the slope and the y-intercept so that we can get the linear model or the equation of the line. So the y-intercept is what we call that b value. So to find this b value, choose one of your 2 points, and it doesn't matter which point you choose. So I'm going to choose the second point here, 125, 1525. So here, remember that the 125, your W, think of that as like your X, and then 1525, you can think of that as your Y. But here, we're calling it W and C. So in the general equation, Y equals mx plus b, substitute in your slope, which is $12 per kilogram. Substitute in your X value. So from that point, we know that when X is 125, Y, so go ahead and substitute in Y, is 1525. And then notice that now we have an equation where we can solve for b. And so working backwards using inverse operations, we can solve for b. So let's go ahead and multiply 12 times 125. That gives me 1,500. And then subtract 1,500 from both sides. Right, that gives me a b value or a y-intercept of 25. So now that I have all the pieces of information, my slope and my y-intercept, I can write the linear model. So the final answer, so don't forget to actually put it all together and answer the actual question. All right, you can write it initially so that you can see it in your mind that is equal to y is equal to 12 times x plus b, but because we're actually told that y is cost, then you want to use the correct variables. So here, the actual equation is c is equal to 12, and then for x, we're calling it w, plus, oops, and then this right here, I should include the, let me see here, the y-intercept is 25, so plus 25. So there we have it. That is the equation or the linear model for this problem.